Hello, class, and welcome to History 337, Europe in the 20th Century. So this class will be looking at a continent that can make an argument in the year 1900 that they are the center of the world. European people in the, let's go 400 years. Prior to 1900, had spread out and effectively conquered the world. While we here in the United States celebrate our independence going back to 1776, we are kind of the exceptions. That Europe's global empires generally lasted well into the 20th century from their origins much earlier. So European people led the world in industry. They kind of set the tone in international and foreign relations. The quality of life was highest there. Most of the money in the world went through European hands. So their power is immense. Their militaries are terrifying. What happened? There might not be. I won't go that far. But Europe in the 20th century experiences 2 world wars and a Cold War. And they emerge on the other side Europe emerges on the other side a very different place. Its people are very different people. So this class will walk you through some of those transformations. What happened, why, and how. For readings for the class, most of your stuff is going to be on Blackboard or accessible through the Sullivan Library website, which is you can access through the DC web portal. You'll basically, there's a couple times it's specified in the syllabus, which you should probably open up and kind of we'll go through that together in this video as I kind of orient you toward the class. But the times when it's specified in the syllabus that the book is on the library website, you have to go on there and read the selected chapter of the book online. I'm not able to download it for some of these. The ones that I have been able to download, I've posted PDFs onto Blackboard. We won't be using a central textbook for this class. I wasn't able to find one that I liked in kind of quick enough time to go through it thoroughly. And I think for an online class, maybe this works a little bit better looking at separate readings. So a lot of time in front of your computer coming up. Obviously, this is an actual 10 days of class time, 11 days of class time. So we're going to be moving fast. Keep up with your work. I'll kind of go through the breakdowns of what that work entails, but be prepared to speed through this course. So, required readings, like I said, most of the readings are through the website or through Blackboard. I will ask you to pick up a copy of Eric Emery Remarks, All Quiet on the Western Front. It's a great look at the First World War, which I think is a conflict that really sets up the events of Europe in the 20th century. It's also a book written from the German perspective, and the German people, I think, help shape the 20th century, that the 3 great conflicts of the 20th century kind of all center around Germany. So I think it's good that we'll start there. Okay, as far as gradings and assessment, so the biggest single chunk of your grade, 40%, is going to come from a paper that you're going to write, linking All Quiet on the Western Front to class materials. I'll have a separate document that will go through that in some detail, but basically I'll ask you to look at the themes of kind of nationalism and war and kind of what this book tells us about Germany going into World War I, during World War I, and then after World War I as well. And that'll be 3 to 5 pages for that. You'll have a midterm and a final. There'll be essay-based test. There's no point in quizzing you on specific facts, particularly when you're taking this class in front of a computer with Wikipedia right there. So, for both these assignments, the paper and your exams, I'm interested in your ability to think and analyze and reason, and to present your thoughts in a written document. Quizzing you on trivia, again, pointless. There will be unit assignments. They're they're called quizzes on the syllabus, but really it's just a little assessment to make sure that you've read and understand the reading that goes into each unit. This will be to pass, to receive a passing grade on this assignment. You can write me a good 5-sentence paragraph, and I've got actually a model of what a 5-sentence paragraph looks like on the Blackboard site under kind of a right on the first page. It's called Writing Guide. It's under course information, course documents. Let me double check the exact wording on that. Course information. It's under course information. But so one long paragraph to a page, I think, will be what I'm looking for there. And I'm looking for, there's simple questions. Don't just give me a simple answer. Did Germany start the First World War? If you just write yes, you will fail. Right? If you say yes, and here's why, and then give examples of German actions that led to the start of the First World War, that's a more complete answer. That's more the level of work that I'm looking for. So always back up what you say with examples. Always explain, again, why and how things happen. That's what I'm most interested in. The understanding, the processes up to and through the events that we're going to be looking at. So that's 20% of your grade, and then the final 20% is your participation grade, basically. Speaking on our class discussion forums. Small group here. I think that actually helps. I think that you will actually really get to know your classmates in the brief time that we have. So each unit discussion forum, with the exception of the first one, is broken into 2 sections. So one thread is there just for you to ask any questions that you have about the reading, things that you don't understand. And particularly in some of the early stuff that we're looking at, it's a little bit theory heavy. We're looking at the theory of nationalism, kind of what that means to the people of Europe. The article that I have you reading for your second class, like half of it is like an italicized, like words taken from other languages. That's a tricky one. Some of the readings, most of the readings will be less complicated than that, but there will be readings that you have questions on. Right? There are things that if you are able to get all the stuff in your first pass through without any kind of help, you should be teaching this class rather than taking it. So don't feel bad about needing to ask for clarification on certain things. So the reading questions thread is there for that. And then there's a second thread called reading discussion, reading reaction. And what I'm looking for here is, some kind of short little blurb. It doesn't have to be quite so formal. And I'm looking for your thoughts on this week's reading. Did you like the writing style? Did you agree or disagree with the author's points? Did this reading change how you think about history? I think that's a good kind of basis for the start of the conversation. To receive credit for participating, either write your own post or respond to one of your classmates. And again, if we can have a discussion that grows out of that, great. So, total listeners together, 100%, that's your grade. This course is kind of designed with the pace in mind that you will complete one unit. So, reading, lecture, discussion board, and assignment per day. Now, the way that the calendar works out here, it's a little bit weird that we have a couple days before Christmas, starting this week. Then we are formally speaking off until after the new year. And then we've got kind of another week of classes out there. So, you are not obligated to do any work during the Christmas holiday. But it does give you kind of an advantage to take some time, you get more time for this class than other students that I've taught other years, where it's just been like the first 2 weeks of January and that's it. So I would recommend that you use that time. Don't blow off your family on Christmas Eve to do work, but if you find yourself with a couple spare hours here and there, sit down, listen to a lecture, write up, do a little bit of writing. That will come in handy later. So on the syllabus, I've got some stuff on learning assistance. If you want to go to the Learning Resource Center, again, I know that you're all distant students, that you're all taking this pretty quickly, but hey, it's a good resource to have. If you can get something done in advance on that, using that week of kind of extra time that we have, you can get it to kind of the writing center that they have down there to take a look at your work. I do grade on writing style, in addition to content. There's some stuff there, kind of why the school is having you take this course, kind of why we study history. It's a little bit more complex than those that don't study it or doomed to repeat it. You could make the argument that we do study history, and we're repeating some pretty bad history right now in our country. So there's some other kind of boilerplate type stuff in the syllabus. Class schedule. Let's get into that. I mentioned that the discussion boards for all the units are broken into 2 sections, except for week 1 that's broken into 3. So there's a section there, just an icebreaker activity, introduce yourself, and to tie into the theme of the class, explain kind of the identities that you see working on you. We'll be talking a lot about nationalism. So, obviously, I think, as far as I know, we're all citizens of the United States. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Do you feel national attachment to the U.S.? Do you feel attachment to any other kind of ethnic groups or countries out there? And how does this kind of impact your life? We'll look at kind of how issues of nationalism and identity do a lot to shape the politics and events of Europe during this time. So that's your icebreaker activity. That's not graded. That's just so that we can all get to know each other. I ask you to please fill it out as a courtesy to me and your fellow classmates. The reading for that week, I have that. The entire book is on Blackboard. Just read the last chapter. Just read the conclusion, because that traces. That's a look at how you kind of came to take over the world, conquer the world, or at least a huge chunk of it. Starting in 1400, 1500, Europe's nothing. Europe's a backwater. Right? The real juice is happening kind of down in the Middle East or over in China. Europe and the nations of Europe, the empires of Europe, end up kind of expanding and colonizing those regions. So we'll spend a little bit of time looking at how we get there. Class 2 looks at nationalism, again, what becomes a driving force in European politics from the 19th century through the 20th century. So we'll talk a little bit about what nationalism is, how that helps shape Europe. Another kind of short lecture there. After that, the lectures are going to start getting a little bit longer. Class 3, Germany, as I mentioned, major players in Europe during this period, so we'll look at where Germany and the Germans come from. The reading for that is also going to be on Blackboard. Class 4, we'll spend 4 and 5 will focus on the First World War. 4 is going to be a reading that I scan in on Blackboard, so that'll be PDF. Class 5, just try to get into All Quiet on the Western Front and read some of it. This is not going to ask you kind of about any details about the entire book. But get into it a little bit, get familiar with it. It's entirely possible that you've read this book in your kind of previous life in high school or other college courses you've taken. It's a good one. It's one of my favorites. So we'll use that to kind of cover the technical aspects of World War I. 6, another scanned-in reading about the Treaty of Versailles, the Paris Peace Conference, which sets the tone not just for Europe in the 20th century, but for the entire world going forward. There's pretty much every problem that you can identify in kind of international affairs in the world today, you can trace back to Versailles in one way or another. It is a tremendous drop ball of policymakers either not doing a very good job or doing the very best job they can and still having it not be good enough. So, unrest in the Middle East, China's hostility toward the United States all stems in one way or another from the Paris Peace Conference and the Treaty of Versailles. Your midterm is also going to be folded into that unit. Of course, coming out of World War I, the circumstances in Europe are become bad enough, are bad enough, that people look to strongmen, kind of these swaggering macho figures, to say that they're going to make their country great again, that they're going to fix what is broken through the power of their just manly toughness. Mussolini, Hitler, we get these people out of this moment and this movement. So we'll look at kind of how these people come into being. 8 and 9, we're going to look at the events of the Second World War. We'll do the actual war in Unit 8. We'll do the Holocaust in Unit 9. And then two sections on the Cold War. Both of those will be excerpts on Blackboard. They'll actually be... I've downloaded those chapters. They'll be a little bit kind of nicer looking than when I kind of scan into reading and have it awkwardly kind of smush onto a scanner. So that'll be that. And then final exam at the end. Looking for a bigger question of how did Europe change during the 20th century. The exams, 2 to 3 pages for those. Okay, so that's the class. Good luck, everyone, and I will see you in there.